Hello, today we're going to talk about some new and interesting shrubs that you may want to add to your landscape. These are not things necessarily that are really new. Some of these are really new. Some of these have been out for a few years, but a lot of these have some different characteristics and some interesting things that may be nice to add to your landscape. First off, we have Abelia Funshine. It's kind of interesting to say, Funshine, for me. The leaves of this plant are really nice. They're really nice chartreuse with little orange tips to them, and even the little branches have some orange color to them. This plant is really nice because it can take full sun, part sun. It's a semi-evergreen, depending on how cold it gets. If it's actually defoliates or not, it only grows about 2 to 3 feet tall. But you have these flowers on with the nice foliage contrast as well. So you get a kind of a two-tone look with this plant. It's a really nice plant, really tough plant, something that adds a lot of interest to your garden. Another abelia is Sunny Anniversary. This is also has a two-tone foliage, well, more of a contrast between the stem and the foliage. This one, though, personally, I think is prettier because of the flower color. You've got yellow, you've got a little bit of orange in there, and a little bit of some pink and purple in there on the flowers. Another thing about abelia that I failed to mention earlier was that they really are nice for pollinators. The bees love these plants when they're in flower. This one gets a little taller than the last one. But again, it blooms summer through frost. It'll go in bloom cycles throughout the season. Another one that's tough as nails. It may or may not defoliate completely depending on the winter we have, but these plants are really nice plants to add to your garden. We're going to move from the Abies to this is a Aronia. This one's called Ground Hug. Aronias do flower in the spring, but they also have some fruit, which some of the larger varieties people don't like because the fruit drops and the birds eat it. But this is a smaller variety, more of almost a dwarf variety. But you get the nice little flowers in the spring, and then you have the fruit, which the birds will eat eventually. And then you have the nice fall foliage as well. This one only gets 14 inches tall, so it's a really nice little shrub. It's going to stay in bounds. You get the flowers in the spring, the fall color, and then the fruit color. So it kind of gives you a little everything but winter interest. Nice plant, tough plant as well. Full sun does great. It can take even to part sun as well. Another aronia is low-scape hedger. This is good for any landscape. It only gets 3 to 5 feet tall, so another one's a little bit taller plant, but it stays in bounds as well, only 2 to 3 feet wide. Uh, Same as the last aronia, you've got great spring flowers, and then you've got the fall color and the fruit as well. These plants are very interesting. This one's just a little bit bigger. This one actually, you can make a hedge out of it if you like, but growing at only 5 feet, it's one of those plants that you can plant and not have to worry about trimming so much. Barberry Sunjoy Neo. Some people are against barberry because some of them have seeded in landscapes and maybe into the wild. I've not noticed a lot of that around here in central Kentucky, but other parts of the state you may have had that. But this one is a variety that is just absolutely gorgeous. You can see the foliage there. It changes to more, it'll turn a little more green in the summer, but it is a gorgeous, bright plant. Who needs flowers when you have foliage like this? Only 2.5 foot tall and wide. So it's another one of those that doesn't need much trimming to stay in bounds. It's really nice, beautiful plant. Barberry Sunjoy Mini Salsa is another barberry that's grown for its foliage. You can see this has got more of a purple and red color mixed in there, which is also will green out more in the summer like the other barberries. Another small plant, only 18 to 24 inches tall. Really nice red fall color as well on this. We have some butterfly bushes that I've put in here. This is butterfly bush, lo and behold. Some people are also against some butterfly bushes because some of them have seeded into landscapes and things. These new varieties are not generally seeding varieties. These are non-invasive types that don't produce seed. This is a smaller butterfly bush than you're probably used to, only 18 to 30 inches tall and wide. So it's kind of a nice low blooming shrub for you. You can put in your perennial beds or in your landscape for your house or anywhere else for that matter. But it blooms during the entire summer. Nice blue flowers on it. It will bloom more if you go ahead and deadhead those flowers during the growing season. Just keep that in mind. But this one's hardy zone 5 to 9. Likely won't die to the ground unless we have very severe winter weather. Butterfly bush Pugster pink. There's a whole Pugster series, a lot of different colors in this one. This bright pink is just absolutely gorgeous, though. It really screams at you whenever you see it in person. Another short butterfly bush, only 2.5 feet tall. Deciduous plants like all the butterfly bushes are, but this one it blooms all summer too. It's also one of those that's not likely to seed in your landscape. Then we have butterfly bush Miss Molly. This is probably the reddest or the closest to a red, and you'll see in butterfly bush. It's a really nice color, I think. This one's a little bit bigger, like some of the butterfly bushes we're more used to. 4 to 5 feet tall, which is not a huge plant, but it's a nice size. We'll really bring in the butterflies, and you get that really punch of color that you can see in that bottom photo. Didn't want to put many boxwoods in here because there's boxwood blight been going around and some other issues with boxwood psyllid and some things like that. But this one is a new one. Is called Green Beauty. It is resistant to boxwood blight, so I thought that if somebody wants a boxwood, needs some boxwoods, this would be a good variety to go ahead and plant. That way you don't have to worry as much about the boxwood blight, which is hit some parts of the state and it's really devastating, especially in Lexington area. This is hardy zone 6 to 9. Like most boxwoods, full sun, part sun, shade, they'll grow just about anywhere. This one maxes out at about 6 feet, so you don't have to worry about doing a lot of trimming unless you want to keep it a little bit shorter than that. But it is an evergreen, like all the boxwoods are. The bloom, it says early spring. The blooms are not really anything we really care about. It's not any really pretty, but we grow the boxwoods for the nice green color year round. Here we have Boxwood Green Mountain. This one is an upright form, which is a nice plant to maybe put on the corners of the house if you want to draw a focal point upward a little bit. This one also only gets about 5 feet tall, but stays a little more narrow at 3 to 4 feet, so it gives that conical shape. Just like all the other boxwoods, uh, beautiful green color year-round is the reason we're growing these. It's good to hide foundations and even for some small screens and those kinds of things. Beautyberry, this is early amethyst. The beautyberry is really interesting because there are some forms out there that can get out into the wild. Some of these newer varieties, though, are keep pretty much in check. We do have native beautyberries as well, and we don't want to encroach on that habitat. But this variety here is absolutely gorgeous. Gets about 3 to 4 feet tall, 4 to 5 feet wide, and in the fall you can see there those berries turn that bright purple color, and then you'll even get a little fall color, a fall leaf contrast with that. The leaves will fall and the berries will hang on there a little longer, so you get some nice, really bright fall color out of this plant. Here we have Beautyberry Pearl Jam, or Pearl Glam, I'm sorry. This plant has a little purple or hue to the foliage during the growing season. And that bottom photo there, those are the little flowers in the spring. And then you can see that top picture whenever the berries turn. You've got that bright purple berry with that darker foliage. This one is a little more narrow than the last one, but a little bit taller. The last one was a little more broader, a little bit shorter, but these are all beautiful plants. These are all really nice to give you some late summer fall color. Beautiful plants. Go ahead and put a couple of these beautyberries in your landscape and you won't be disappointed, absolutely. We're going to move on to some Carolina allspices. This one is simply sensational. Has a really great scent to these flowers when they bloom. The flowers are really interesting because of the color. They're almost a dark maroon. It's something that you don't see that often in especially shrubs, blooming shrubs. This one will take full sun to part sun. It's drought tolerant once it's established. Very nice plants. There are native Carolina allspices to the eastern part of the United States, so these cultivars were either bred or selected from those. These are all tough as nails plants. We've got a couple of allspice behind the building here at the office that when they're in flower, they're absolutely gorgeous. They have nice smell to the flowers. This one's extra nice as far as the fragrance goes. This is allspice Venus. It's a white flower form. Most of the allspices are that maroon color. This one is extra fragrant as well. This kind of looks like a magnolia to me, which was I really like this color or this flower on this plant. I don't have one personally at this time, but I'm probably going to be ordering one. And you can see that it's got a showstopper award there. This one gets 5 to 6 feet tall and 6 to 8 feet wide, so it can be a large plant. So you want to give it a little room wherever you want to plant it, but put it somewhere where it's in flower where you can smell the fragrance when you walk out the door, though. Coreopteris, sunshine blue. Beautiful plant. All the Caryopterises they love full sun, they love heat, they grow quite well here, especially in our heats of the summer heats here. This one gets about 3 feet to 3 feet tall and 3 feet wide. Uh, this one though, the foliage is absolutely glorious. If it never flowered, we would still grow it for that bright chartreuse yellow foliage. And you can see that you have those blooms that come out with the light blue that really contrast with that. So it's a beautiful plant. Also, the pollinators love Caryopteris. Caryopteris Beyond Midnight. This one has just regular green foliage, but it has a really dark blue flower on it, and it kind of does look like a spirea. It says here it's known as blue mist spirea. They are remotely related, but it is a very nice plant. Again, takes full sun, loves it. It's a little shorter than the last one, only 2 to 2.5 feet tall and only 2 to 3 feet wide. It's a nice little shrub to mix in with your perennial beds and those kinds of things. And another one is the pollinators do love all these Caryopteris. You'll have insects and butterflies and bees and everything else on this when it's in full bloom. One thing about these, whenever they do finish blooming, you can cut them back a little bit and they will rebloom for you. Quince Double Take Peach. The Double Take quinces have been out for several years, but I want to put these in here because they give you a really great early spring color, and they're really bright colors to these that they really set themselves apart in the landscape. This one it gets the 2019 Oklahoma Proven Shrub winner. It's full sun to part sun. You'll get more flowers in full sun, 4 to 5 feet tall and 4 to 5 feet wide. You can trim them back a little more if you'd like to do that, but it does bloom in early spring, but it's really nice to mix in some bulbs and things with these. And these will bloom, and then the bulbs will bloom. Tulips and Mosher daffodils are going to be a little bit later than these, but these are really early plants, and they're really gorgeous. And they almost look like little roses on the plant. Some other colors of the double take quince. We have an orange there to the left, pink in the middle, and then that's bright scarlet there at the end. Looks like I've got the colors out of order there, but you can see what color they are by looking at them. Really beautiful plants, all of them. Clethra Summer Sweet. This is Vanilla Spice. This is one of the summer sweets with the largest flowers. They're calling these supersized blooms. For summer sweets, these are extra large. This plant likes full sun to part sun, grows about 3 to 6 feet tall and about 3 to 6 feet wide. These plants do tend to like a little more water, so don't put them in a drought-prone area or dry area of your yard. Put them somewhere where they can stay moist during the growing season. Now, not necessarily next to a downspout, but just don't put them in a rocky, dry area that they don't really appreciate that much. Scotch broom, Alina. Scotch brooms are very interesting because it almost looks like they don't have leaves at all. You can see those tiny leaves. That's as big as they get. So when they're not in flower, they're not showstoppers in the landscape at all. But when they're in bloom, they're absolutely gorgeous. This one doesn't care about wind, doesn't care about what kind of soil you've got. They're just tough as nails plants. This one, it gets about 3 to 4 feet tall and wide. They are evergreen as well, so this plant does at least give you some green color in the wintertime, even though the foliage is really small. This little pea type bloom there, you can see this one is orange with a little bit of red in the middle, or I guess it's kind of a yellow orange two-tone mix more than red. But I can see a little purple hue and some other colors in there as well. Scotch brooms are very tough though. Here's a few other Scotch broom colors if you want some other ones in different colors. There to the left, we have Burke Eye, which is the purple. Then we have Madam Butterfly and Sister Disco and Sister Redhead, and these aren't in order this time. So if you want to look these up, you can see what colors you'd like to add to the landscape. I will notice on these cultivars that the Sister Redhead and the Sister Disco, especially Sister Redhead, has a little bigger flower or a little bigger leaf than some of the other varieties do, but that might be something nice to have at least in the wintertime. Some Deutzia, we have Yuki Cherry Blossom. The Deutzias used to be quite big plants. They've done some breeding on these. This one took 10 years to develop, but it does have the Silver Medal and Planetarian Award in 2016, Landscape Plant of the Year in 2017. Takes full sun to part sun, only gets a 1 to 2 feet tall, 1 to 2 feet wide. So another small flowering shrub if you would need something a little smaller to add to your landscape. This is really great. blooms in the spring, and you can see the flowers close up there. They almost look like a little bit, maybe even some of the upright clematis flower types. You know, they're kind of two-tone, really nice plants. We have Deutzia Duncan, and another one that's not as big as the regular Deutzias were early on. This one does give you some season-long color because the foliage has a little chartreuse color to it there. You can see in the top photo. Only gets a 1.5 to 3 feet tall, another small plant. These are deciduous. I don't know if I said that earlier on the last one, but this one gives you white flowers and then two-toned foliage, or the kind of darker green and lighter green foliage. That does give you some contrast if you have other plants planted around it. Deutzia Nico, also a small plant, but this one gets really nice fall color. So you've got the spring flowers and then the fall color with this one. So it's a little different than having the different foliage color during the growing season. But you can see all these planted together would be really nice. Uh, Same as the other ones, has the spring flowers. Only gets a 1 to 2 feet tall, but it gets a little wider, up to 3 feet wide. But this one, obviously, if you plant them close enough, could make an actual ground cover as well. Here we're going to move on to the Duravillas. This is Kodiak Red. It is a really nice plant. It's grown for its foliage color. It's attractive. It's got red spring and autumn foliage. It gets red tones on the new growth even during the growing season. And you have those little yellow flowers that give you some contrast and little red seed heads there. Pretty tough plant. Prefers full sun, part sun, and shade, so you can grow it just about anywhere you'd like. Gets about 4 feet wide and 4 feet tall. Really nice plant. Gives you a good foliage color that you can contrast with other plants. Duravilla Kodiak Black, also like the one before that, is grown for the foliage. This one's grown for the really dark purple foliage. And you can see during the growing season, a little new growth is kind of red. Really nice plant. Also gives you the foliage or the flower color like the one prior to it. Again, toughest nails plant, full sun, part sun, and shade. Forsythia, this is Sugar Baby. I wanted to put a Forsythia in here because a lot of our Forsythias get pretty large and they only can be pruned right after flowering to make sure you get flowers the next year. So this is a nice new variety that stays pretty small that you can add to your landscape. Only a 1.5 to 2.5 foot tall and 2 to 3 foot wide. So gives you that nice bright yellow color in the early spring that you would like, but it doesn't outgrow the bounds of where you'd like to put it. These plants are not as attractive during the growing season as some other shrubs, but this is a really nice short version that really will fit into your landscape quite nicely. This is Bottle Brush, Legend of the Fall. We have several bottle brushes out there, also known as Father Gilla. Really nice plants, give you some early spring flowers there. This one gets about 4 to 5 feet tall and wide. Full sun to part sun, but the real show for this one is this fall foliage. You can see there. There's multiple colors in that fall foliage, and it is absolutely gorgeous during the fall. Rose of Sharon, Magenta. This is Chiffon, or Magenta Chiffon, I'm sorry. It is a Rose of Sharon. What more do you can say? They are tough as nails as well. They like full sun. This one gets about 8 to 12 foot tall and 6 to 10 foot wide. Like all other Rose of Sharons, you'll get a lot more flowers on this plant if you trim it back in the spring before it starts to grow, and all that new growth will shoot out, and that'll give you a lot more flowers. It's a really nice plant, though. It's kind of a semi-double. You can actually see the center of the flower there, which will still let the pollinators get in there and get at least some pollen, maybe not some nectar. Rose of Sharon, Pink Chiffon. Love the color of this one. It is a double, however, which is the pollinators are not going to be really excited about because they can't get down into that flower. But it is a gorgeous flower, you have to admit there. This one gets up to 12 feet tall and up to 10 feet wide, but like other Rose of Sharons, they will produce a lot more flowers if they are cut back in early spring before new growth begins. Another thing about these new varieties they have low seed set and they bloom a long time. So that will reduce the number, if any, seedlings that you may see in your landscape. Some of the older varieties seeded profusely if you didn't cut those off. Hydrangea, this is Invincibelle garneta. There's a lot of Invincibelles and Invinciballs out there, a lot of different varieties. This one is really neat because you have that kind of hot pink or flower color here. It's really nice. This one is hardy to zone 8. You know, likes full sun and part sun. A lot of these hydrangeas these Invincibles and Invincibles and all that may actually like a little bit of shade in the late afternoon. Don't worry if you can't give it a little bit of late afternoon shade, it'll do quite well still. This one only gets 2.5 feet tall by 2.5 feet wide, so that's great. Also, it can be a summer rebloomer, so you may get more flowers on this one than just what comes out in the spring. Hydrangea, Lime Ricky. This is another one of those new uh, hydrangeas out on the market. This cool lime color really is nice in the summertime. It does contrast quite well with that really dark green foliage that you can see there. Full sun to part sun, another one of those that might appreciate a little late afternoon shade. Gets up to 5 feet tall and wide. Really nice plant. The pollinators will like this. Really nice plant. Some of these new hydrangea varieties are really nice and really prolifically grown here. Hydrangea Invincible Lace. I want to put this one in there just where you can see the different flower forms that you can get on some of these. This one gets up to 5 feet tall and wide, and you can see you get a two-toned color look with these lace type of flowers on it. It's a really nice plant as well. And then we have the mop head types of hydrangeas here. This one is Let's Dance Rhythmic Blue, which is really interesting because it changes color quite readily. A lot of these mop head varieties change, their bloom colors will change based on the pH of the soil. This one seems to go change color pretty easily and without huge fluctuations in that pH. This one was developed in Michigan for cold tolerance, which is good, and also for reblooming ability. And you can see there we've got blue flowers, and you look down the bottom, pink and even purple, and you may have all those on the plant at the same time, depending on what the pH subtleties are around that plant. One side of the plant might have a little bit lower pH than the other side, and you'll get a bluer or more purple flower color that way. Hydrangea Little Lime Punch. This one is absolutely gorgeous. It's another one of the, this is more the PG or the full sun, hot loving hydrangea plants that's on the market nowadays. This one only gets 5 feet tall and wide, and it actually can rebloom as well. The great thing about this one is no plant is going to look the same because you can see those flowers as they age, they will turn more red. So you could have some new white flowers and some medium aged flowers that are starting to turn pink, and they can have that almost red on there. So you don't want to deadhead this plant until after the hard frost because you're going to enjoy all those color hues and changes of that plant while it's aging in the garden. Moving on to winterberry, this is holly berry poppins. Berry Poppins is a deciduous holly, which is really nice because whenever the foliage falls off, it leaves behind these red fruit that contrasts really nice in the landscape. This one does need a male pollinator. The one that they've got on the market for it is called Mr. Poppins. But it only gets about 4 feet tall and wide, likes full sun to part sun. It will have little flowers in the spring, then foliage will come out, and then you'll have this nice red fruit that sets in the fall. They don't last a long time after the flower drops, but they do put on a show while the berries are actually on there. Virginia Sweet Spire is a native. This is Scintlandia. It's a new variety on the market. Does like full sun, part sun, or shade. This plant will grow just about anywhere. Once it's established, it's even drought tolerant, even though it does like a little moisture in its native growing habitat. But nice plant that you get the nice white flowers in the spring and they smell heavenly when they're in flower. And also it gives you great fall color year in and year out. So it gives you multiple seasons of interest in your garden. And it only gets 3 feet tall and 3 feet wide. It's a really nice plant for, you can put it in your landscape beds. You can put it in your perennial beds and mix it in. You can even put it as a foundation plant. Really nice plant. I didn't want to put a lot of these taller, bigger plants in here, but I wanted to give you an option on some of, if you needed some little taller evergreen plants. This is Juniper Gin Fizz. It has a very high berry set there, which are actually small cones in real life, but we call them juniper berries. If you didn't know, gin is made out of juniper berries, so not necessarily this variety, but in Europe, they make gin out of juniper berries. And if you ever squish one of these berries, you can, and if you smell gin before, you can smell that smell in these. This is a really great, tough evergreen. Gives Once full sun, I get about 10 to 18 feet tall and 7 to 10 feet wide. As far as evergreens go in landscapes in Kentucky, the junipers have probably outdone anything else we could have planted other than our native cedar trees. Really nice plant, though. We have juniper gold lace. This one is keeps this kind of a yellow chartreuse color year round. It's really nice whenever you see that contrasting with a darker color next to it or behind it. Looks really nice in a mass planting as well. This one only gets about 4 foot tall, but does spread out to 7 feet. So if you need a large area covered and you want some nice color, this is a great plant for that. And again, there's nothing tougher than a juniper as far as our Kentucky weather goes. Juniper Aquavita, which is kind of hard for me to say. I had to think about it for a second. But this one is really another really nice one. But this one is more of a blue upright form. Gets about 12 to 15 feet tall, but only up to 4 feet wide. So it's a very cylindrical plant for us. This one is good if you like the color of some of the true cedars that we can plant. This one has that color, but with the vigor and the toughness of the juniper. Another, just wanted to put these in here to show you that the colors that you can get from the same species of plant just based on cultivar. We have bush clover. This is Gibraltar. It is a beautiful plant as well. You can see all that foliage there that's really purple. This was actually has an award from the Kentucky Theodore Klein Award, which is a great plant. Getting that award from Udale is really important. It tells you this plant does quite well in Kentucky. It does like full sun. It gets 4 to 5 feet wide and 4 to 5 feet tall. Really nice plant for some late summer blooms. Here we have mock orange snowbell. If you're not familiar with mock orange, it's a really old shrub that was in a lot of the old gardens, but it used to get quite large. So they've done some breeding to get these down to more manageable sizes for our modern day landscapes. These smell heavenly when they're in flower, and they are just completely loaded with white flowers in the spring. This selection here does prefer full sun to part sun, like most mock oranges do, but it only gets 4 feet tall and 4 feet wide. And you can see by that picture there, it is in full bloom. It's dropped so many petals that the ground is white, but it still has enough on the plant that it just gives you a real show when it's in full flower. And again, it has a really nice fragrance. Spirea, there's been a lot of work on spireas over the last few years. I'm just going to put a couple of these in here because there's all different colors, foliage and flower colors out there. This is double play blue kazoo. Like this one because you get this two-tone with the cool blue foliage, and then you get some little white flowers in the spring. Even though the foliage starts out in the spring this more purple color, as they age, they turn more green, and then as we go into spring and summer, then the flowers are white as on the plant. Really nice plant. Only gets 2 to 3 feet wide and 2 to 3 feet tall. Great thing about spireas, if they get kind of ratty looking, you can chop them back pretty good and they'll come right back out from the root system. Lilac Centaurea Double Blue. This one has the best fragrance. If you ever get around this plant and you can smell it, it's absolutely phenomenal. It, as the selection says there, or the caption says there, it was selected for its fragrance. It is absolutely wonderful as far as fragrance goes. And if you look close, you can see the actual flowers are double as well. This one also, it was bred for its resistant to mildew, which is great because you know we have mildew problems on a lot of our lilacs here in Kentucky. It is a large plant, so you need to give it some room at 6 to 8 feet tall and 6 to 8 feet wide. But if you're looking for a lilac with that real lilac fragrance that still kind of looks like the old-fashioned lilac, this is the selection for you. We have Arborvitae filiformis. Arborvitaes are another one of those evergreens that are really nice for us. They come through some situations that some of the other evergreens don't come through, and they have a lot less disease problems than some of the other evergreens. But this one does not look like any arborvitae you've ever seen. It almost looks like the false cypress, which is kind of neat because you need that look. It almost looks like a waterfall. I think it's probably what I would have named it, but anyway. It is hardy to zones 3 to 7, full sun to part sun, 4 to 8 feet tall and 4 to 8 feet wide. I think this one actually would make a really nice specimen plant in the middle of a bed with some other things planted around it. But I wanted to put that in there to let you see that there are a lot of different shapes of leaves and forms in all these different plants just based on cultivar. Just to give you some contrast more between this arborvitae, this one is arborvitae pancake. This one you'll never need to prune. It stays really tiny, only a foot tall and 2 to 4 foot wide. But you can see that this blue hue to the foliage is why that you would grow this plant. This plant also, looking at the foliage, looks nothing like most arborvitae's foliage is even shaped. But it's a really great plant if you need something short that gives you some blue color. This one is the one that you'd like to that you should at least give a try. And then finally, I wanted to put some more of these in there. Again, you can see with these 3 different arborvitaes, this is called Fluffy. This one is actually a Western arborvitae, but it still has the same toughness as the other arborvitaes. This one is hardy and burn resistant, which means it gives you uh, which means it won't wind burn, I guess, but I should tell you that in the wintertime, if we have one of those polar vortexes, which can happen to some evergreens if we have a lot of really cold, dry wind blowing over these plants. This one is hardy to zone 8, and it is full sun to part sun. Gets up to 10 feet tall and up to 6 feet wide, but that foliage color you can see there is the reason to grow this one. You can see that bright yellow color, and you can see a little green mixed in there too, but it's a really nice plant. I can see those 3 arborvitaes that I've just discussed with you, planting those into bed together, and look how much color you'd get just based on 3 cultivars of the same species of plant. And then we have the Weigelas. This is Sonic Bloom Pink. It's been out for several years, but there's not many shrubs out there will outbloom this one. This one's really great plant that can repeat until frost without deadheading. You get a major bloom in the spring, but then you'll get some other blooms during the growing season. There's several of these out there. This is the 2019 Flowering Shrub of the Year. Hardy to zone 4 to 8. Loves full sun, gets 4 to 5 feet tall and wide. You can trim it back. It won't mind it a bit if it gets out of bounds. But you can see that the stem's almost laid over. There'll be so many flowers on it. A great plant. If you're looking for something for some color for a full sunny area, this is definitely one that you could give a try. So I know I ran through that pretty quick. There was 50 slides, 50 plants, but I just wanted to give you a quick update on some things out there that are really nice that you may want to add to your landscape, just shrub-wise, varying sizes and shapes and colors and leaf textures and everything else that you can get out there that you don't need just perennials and annuals. If you just want to do an entire bed of flowering shrubs or evergreen shrubs, you can get all that color and texture just by planting shrubs if that's what you choose to do. I do want to note that all of the plant descriptions and all the pictures came from Spring Meadow and their Spring Meadow nursery there. They're a wholesale nursery. They sell a lot of the new proven winners and a lot of those things out on the market. But if you want to go to their website there, you can look at all these and more. I think there's probably 400 plants on their website, and you can hit that link and go look at those as well. I will note that even though some of those did come from their website, they don't sell all of those. They just put those on there where people can get an idea of what might be out there. So if you have any questions, you can always call me here at the Extension office at 859-336-7741. Happy gardening.